Hello guys, welcome back to my videos. Here is the 5 most underrated bloodlines in Shindo Life. Now if you guys enjoyed this video, hit the like button, subscribe. Let's get right to the video, guys. Now coming in 5th place is going to be Odin Sabaru. Odin Sabaru is going to be coming in 5th because ever since the 3rd ability got nerfed, people think this KG is garbage. Now the first ability is literally just a Jokai rotation. It's literally the exact same as Jokai rotation. It does the same thing, it does the same amount of damage, it has the same exact effect. So if you guys know just how good Jokai is, that is why this ability is actually good. Now the second ability is actually a range black break teleport. Now the best ability of Odin Sabaru is actually really busted, especially if they're not using a counter. If they're not using a counter, this ability will literally mean their death if you're using it correctly. Now it actually is very good for setting up combos or extending combos, and overall the second ability is very good in general and is by far one of the best block breakers, if not the best one in the entire game. Now the third ability is actually a hand sign ability that summons clones and is a counter ability. It is on the counter cooldown. Now the third ability was nerfed and nerfed over and over again. Now it only has 2 clones, has hand signs, and now the counter is not as long as it used to be. So third ability is just significantly worse than it used to be. I'd recommend using this for the first 2 abilities. Now the mode is actually good. The auto attacks is actually normal auto attacks, but the C spec is actually very good. It's like Akuma C spec, but with Odin Sabaru. So it pretty much is just the same thing as Akuma C spec, but it has a green effect instead of anything else. Now the weapon spec is actually Sabaru's weapon, Sabaru C spec, which teleports you to people. It actually does a stun ability, and overall it is very good. Now coming in 4th is going to be Seishin. Seishin is going to be coming in 4th because Seishin is actually a lot better than a lot of people think. Now besides the C spec being pretty bad because the C spec has way too much end lag when you use the ability, and it also does not stun anymore, only does the damage and a block break. The abilities of Seishin are actually quite good, and you do get buffed M1s from Seishin. Now the first ability is actually this ability that stuns people, and it is only stun global cooldown if I'm not mistaken. It actually is very good for stunning though and doing certain things. Second ability is almost the exact same, but actually makes 2 people attack each other instead of the first ability just dragging people to you. Now the third ability is actually one of the best of Seishin. It has 0 hand sides and a Senbon ability that does a stun and an explosion afterwards. Now this ability is actually very good, simply because, you know, the third ability is instantaneous, low cooldown. It is, you know, it's a stun ability, so I'm sure you guys can see why that is so broken, because it is not only stun global cooldown. Now coming in 3rd is going to be Renshiki. Now Renshiki is a lot better than a lot of people think. Now this is going to be because they actually have buffed Renshiki over and over again, to the point where Renshiki is actually quite good now. Now the first ability of Renshiki is actually a counter ability where if you hold it down it drains your stamina, but actually is quite good as an ability because it does give you chi back when they attack you, and overall that it's actually one of the best counters in the game. Just people don't know how it works. You have to hold it down for it to last a long time. Now the second ability is going to be probably the worst one of Renshiki. It's just basically a large damage burst, and it is on the stun global cooldown, which needs to be removed, and overall after it's removed from the stun global cooldown, it actually will be quite good. Now the third ability is actually a hand side ability. They actually did buff the third ability, so it does go further. It block breaks, it does more damage now. The C spec is actually quite good for getting out of situations or initiating, because it is a block break ability that does a decent amount of damage. As you guys can see, it did about like 80k damage right there. Now the weapon spec is going to be probably the best ability of Renshiki. Is a stun ability that actually does stun for quite a while. They actually did buff it, and it does do a decent amount of damage and does auto track. So overall Renshiki is a lot better than people think. Now coming in 2nd is going to be Vine. Now most people know Vine for, you know, the pre-nerf clones, but after the clones were nerfed, people really don't use Vine that much. Now this is going to be for very, you know, good reasons, because the clones are actually a lot worse than they used to be. They don't do as much damage as they used to, you know, that's not very good overall. But the second ability is actually going to be the best one. But before that, I'll show you the first ability. The first ability is an okay stun ability. It halves your damage when it actually stuns people, and overall it actually is not that good. Now the C spec is going to be an ability that it comes out, it does the same stun attack as the first ability, so it halves your damage, but they actually did buff the damage on it, so that is quite good. But the main reason why Vine is going to be underrated is this second ability. Second ability is an instantaneous auto dodge ability that drains stamina. If you take a stamina pot and you can attack during it, by the way, you can do anything during the auto dodge. If you actually use a stamina pot and things like that during the second ability, it can last actually a very long time. It's basically just a reality warp as a bloodline ability, so that is actually very good, and it's going to be the main reason why Vine is underrated. Now honorable mention 1 is going to be Blood. This is going to be for one reason alone, which is the third ability. But the other 2 abilities are Blood are actually okay. The first ability is a stun ability that doesn't work quite right, but it is still quite good. The second ability is an ability that actually heals you and does damage to people. But the main thing that makes Blood so underrated is this third ability. Third ability is by far one of the best stuns in the entire game. It stuns for a very long time, does a decent amount of damage, and is actually one of the longest stuns in the entire game. Honorable mention 2 is actually going to be Smoke. Now most people use Smoke for this ability, which travels, but what they don't know is it actually does damage to people when you actually are on top of them. So if you're on top of someone and aim directly into the ground, as you guys can see, it does a ton of damage. So if you use that ability correctly, it actually does do quite a bit of damage and actually is quite good as an ability. But the second ability is actually an ability where if you click on someone, it does this ability that ragdolls, and it's an AoE ability. It does a lot of damage. Third ability is actually an instantaneous counter ability, which does the same thing as the second ability, but as a counter. So overall, Smoke is very, very underrated, and it does a lot of damage for being an elemental bloodline. Now, coming in first is going to be Xenodoke. Now, you guys may be thinking, oh, Xenodoke, that's not underrated. People use it for boss farming all the time, but it is underrated. People don't use this for anything besides boss farming, but this is actually one of the best PvP bloodlines in the game. The M1s of the first ability is a non-knockback M1. I know you guys know how busted those are because, you know, you probably have fought someone using non-knockback buffed M1s. But the C-Spec is really good against people too. It is a block breaker that actually does a decent amount of damage. You can get 2 procs off of people. Actually 3 if you actually do it correctly. Weapon Spec overall is very, very good for PvP as well. The first ability is one of the best, you know, semi-stun abilities because it is not only stun global cooldown. The second ability is so good for just fighting people because it's basically unavoidable as an ability. And the third ability is basically just Ryan Ren third ability, but better. So overall, Xenodoke is actually very, very good as a bloodline for PvP. And it is a very underrated PvP bloodline. Anyways, guys, that's actually it for this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, remember to like, click on more. See you next one, guys. Bye-bye.